Hey everybody, Greg Siskind here. I am solo this week, and I may be cutting out a little bit early because early being probably at about 25 or 30 minutes in because I have another live stream that I'm going to be going to with our litigation team on a project we're working on. So forgive me for that. I wanted to just tell you as well. I've had 3 trips in the last 7 days. So have been on the road quite a bit and haven't been posting as much or writing as much as I usually do on immigration over the course of the week. So you'll forgive me, but I did want to talk about a couple of developments in different parts of the immigration news stream. One, if you haven't heard about it, and this will be, I think, interesting to see whether this ends up in litigation or not, but there has been another change in the Child Status Protection Act policies at the administration. So they have reverted back to an old position that was taken by USCIS. And basically, a lot of people that watch this read the visa bulletin. They know what we're talking about when we're talking about the dates of filing chart versus the final action date chart. And just to sort of like give you a little briefing, and then I'll kind of explain the complexity as best I can for what's happening. And actually, I'm going to move the microphone a little bit closer to me because some of you may be not hearing this well. Hopefully that's better. But the way it works with the visa bulletin for both for the family and the employment-based categories is the government has 2 different charts that they use for determining whether somebody is in the line. And so everybody that's filed has a green card application pending on their behalf has a priority date. And that priority date determines where they're on the line. And so for many, many years, as I've been practicing immigration law, there was one chart for family, one chart for employment, and it was essentially the final action date chart. Final action date chart is basically based on the visas that are available, these are the cases that we will accept at this point. And you couldn't process unless there was an actual visa available at the time that you were filing. Then I think it was probably about 15 years ago, something called the date of filing chart came out. And basically the idea for this was the way the statute reads is you're not permitted to file this is the way it's interpreted. There are other interpretations out there, but the date of filing determines when you the date of filing chart says basically if they anticipate visa numbers being available in the fiscal year, they will allow you to file for adjustment before the visa actually becomes available. So that date of filing chart, the dates were later, which meant that if you had that you could basically get the benefits of an adjustment of status application maybe a few months to potentially longer than that before the green card would become available. Now that matters for a lot of reasons, but it matters because the Child Status Protection Act, a child has to be for a child to benefit from a parent's application, they have to be eligible for the green card before they turn 21. And for a long time, USCIS had been making the interpretation that they can only look at the final action date chart to figure out whether the child was under 21 for immigration purposes when to be eligible for the green card benefits. A lot of people made the case that the government had the ability to have the interpretation that the date of filing chart should control, which would allow a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't get the green card because because of turning 21 under the final action date chart, that they would still be eligible for the benefit. That was particularly of interest to people on H-1B visas and from countries like India and China because of the long backlogs in those categories, and that interpretation allowed a lot of people from those countries, their children, to qualify for green cards with them when they couldn't before. That changed, that policy change came early in the Biden administration, and the Trump administration has just issued a policy memo reversing that, and going back to the original policy, the one that was the harsher policy, without really offering any explanation of why that was justified or needed. And presumably it's just to be cruel, or and have fewer people able to benefit from it. One thing I'll mention about that is there was a sort of a history of doing that in the first Trump administration, where a longstanding policy would just be reversed in a way to harm immigrants, in the form of a memorandum rather than actually going through any kind of rulemaking. The memorandum itself would not provide, aside from just saying, usually they say fraud, or usually they'll say, they'll come up with some broad language in there, but really not offer a much of an explanation for what was justifying of a change. And a lot of those issues got litigated, and I would guess that this one, and litigated successfully. I'm guessing this will be one of those issues that will be litigated. I don't know anymore. I don't know who's working on this case. I would imagine that it will be worked on, and possibly our firm will work on it with impact litigation. It's hard to say right now. It's just happened. This policy change wasn't one that we saw coming, because it seemed like a relatively obscure issue, and one that didn't seem to have a lot of controversy at the time when the policy was changed in the first place. But we will see. If there are people that are potentially negatively impacted by this, reach out to me, and if we can find enough support for it, it's something that we can certainly in our litigation team discuss it. If there's another litigation group, a firm or a group of firms that want to pursue this, more power to them, and I'm happy to direct people there if we see that issue. So I wanted to raise that one first. Another that I wanted to, a policy change that I wanted to call attention to. This is not a policy change yet. It's a proposed new rule that Department of State issued that would require applicants for the green card lottery, the diversity visa, to submit a scan of their passports when they enter the lottery. It's designed to combat fraud and disqualify entries without a valid passport scan. So I wanted to alert people to that, because if you're planning on filing for the lottery, just make sure that you have updated your passport and you have a valid passport at the time you enter the lottery. It's not just that you have that available to you when you get selected and apply for the green card. Now you have to have it on the front end. So just be aware of that. I saw some interesting data this week. This is the third thing I wanted to mention regarding the detention numbers. So the American Immigration Lawyers Association are reporting that there are 60,000 people currently in U.S. immigration detention, which is apparently a new record high. This is not exactly surprising, but I think we should expect to see more and more as obviously more funds flow into ICE. They have billions of dollars. They're on a massive recruitment campaign. They have they have a lot of money to fund the construction of detention centers. So The ICE industrial complex seems to be growing, and I expect that detention figure to continue to grow. That might tie into another story that I haven't checked this out for myself, but and it comes from an anti-immigrant group. The data, but it's worth noting that according to the Center for Immigration Studies, which is is definitely not a pro-immigration group, they're quoting the figure of a drop in the U.S. population, the foreign-born U.S. population in the U.S. of 2.2 million since the beginning of the year. I'm not sure, they're counting legal and undocumented. I would be pretty skeptical of numbers that they offer, particularly on undocumented. But it is interesting. I do think that there probably has been a fairly substantial drop in numbers, not so much because of removals from the government. But there are a lot of people that we know just from talking to our clients and talking and seeing seeing what's happening in the community around us. It's anecdotal, obviously, but it does seem like there are a lot of people who just have left, gone back to their countries, and not just people here illegally, but just people who said they've had enough, and they have and they've decided it's better not to go back to their home country or to go pick some other country. So that's a concern. I've talked about it before on this live stream, that the drop in the population in the United States is not doing anybody any favors, particularly when it comes to controlling inflation. In the U.S., we're already seeing this week, we saw inflation start to tick up. We have not seen any decline in unemployment, really much of a change in the unemployment rates, and that's probably just because there already is a severe labor shortage. So there's not a lot of people that are looking for jobs. That being the case, the drop in immigrants, the tariffs, and the other stuff is coming. I'm expecting to see a lot of inflation in the months ahead. We've already started seeing it start to tick up. I'm expecting to see quite a bit more. And then, you're going to have people are going to have to sort of face the question, everyday Americans, about whether the current administration's immigration policies are really as they wanted a crackdown on illegal immigration. I think most people didn't want the crackdown on legal immigration that we've also seen, but that was pretty predictable if you looked at the first term of this president. But that's the consequence. By the way, I don't know if this is sort of a major news story, but it was just something that I observed as I was sort of digging in on the DHS press releases. DHS, by the way, is claiming that they have 80,000 people that have applied for jobs with ICE since they started offering that $50,000 bonus that we talked about last week. I think when people figure out that bonus is not really $50,000, it's $10,000. They've already missed out on $10,000 of it, which had a deadline. So it's like maximum $40,000, but you have to stay for 3 years before you can collect that. But they did have a lot of people apply for those jobs. Who knows, for those 80,000, how many of them are? First of all, we don't even know if that's a real number. I trust very little of what is reported by this administration as fact. But even if we assume that it's a real number, we have no idea, are these people who are actually remotely qualified for the job and could actually, although I'm not sure that matters that much either for meeting their targets. But that happened. But when I was looking at their press release about the 80,000, they were touting something I thought was interesting, and I decided to dig into it a little bit more, which is that they're offering student loan forgiveness for people that sign up to join ICE. And that seemed to be really interesting, considering that this administration has really gone on the attack on all the loan forgiveness programs, student loan forgiveness programs that have been out there. So it seems a little bit interesting that they are offering student loan forgiveness to this group that they're favoring and taking away loan forgiveness to millions of others. And not just, there have been for years loan forgiveness programs for people that are going to work in federal agencies doing public interest work. But what we have seen is the administration changing their definition of public service to mirror the anti-trans, anti-immigrant, anti-diversity policies. So they are dramatically limiting, even in the federal government, who can receive loan forgiveness based on public service by having this very restrictive and basically Trumpy definition of what it meets the public service requirement for loan forgiveness. So that's interesting that people that are doing really amazing work trying to benefit the public are getting nothing. And I'm not saying that people that are in ICE aren't doing anything. I think they do. I'm not one of these people who say just completely abolish ICE. I do think that there's a legitimate function the agency has, but it is a little bit galling that agency is getting that, people being hired in that agency are getting this benefit when they've cut the benefits to so many others. So just saying. I also wanted to, and I think this is the last thing I'm going to mention, and then I'll try and talk about a little bit about some of the questions that are up. But USCIS has recently issued guidance allowing officers to deny family-based green card petitions without first requesting missing documents or issuing some kind of warning, something that has been sort of a traditional, reasonable, good government policy where they that existed in the past. Starting August 1st, that policy went into effect, and basically it risks, for some people, it's not just having to refile the application that got denied, but they are. They will deny and then quickly put somebody into deportation proceedings and issuing a notice to appear as soon as they issue that denial for that mistake of missing a document in an application, which is which is pretty scary. That somebody will just has the ability to adjust and get a green card, for example, and then they file an application, and the next thing they know, because they were out of status maybe for a short period of time, now they're put into removal proceedings, even though they were on a track for a green card, but for that mistake. So I tell people that to just to let them know that they are need to be super diligent. You might want to consider getting legal help for filing even more basic applications, just so that doesn't happen. And it's just something that you should be aware of. Okay. So I had some questions. Tarir Siddiqui had a question regarding the mass F1 visa revocation lawsuit. That has been, I just got a text on that, like literally since this has been, and we just, well, our suit is, there's two suits. The one that we're working on, I believe is about to go out or has been filed. There's another suit as well that's been filed in the same district that has just gotten a judge assigned. In all likelihood, we're going to get the same judge. In the other case, the judge is Gia Cobb. So look for some news from us on that probably within the next couple of days. I know that we have been the drafts of the litigation have been going back and forth to the different firms over the last couple of days, and it looks good on there. I think it's a great case, so look for that to happen very shortly. And then Umar Aslam, thank you. It's not a question. It's just saying something nice. So thank you for that. I don't have any, it's just not showing other questions for right now. So I am going to, like I said, drop off a little early tonight, and I'll be back next week, letting you guys know what's going on in immigration. And I hope this has been helpful. Anyway, see you next time. Bye-bye.